Hello and welcome to my review of the Panasonic PT-AE 8000, also known as the PT-AE 6000 in the EU. Just to start off with, I'm not going to bother too much in terms of the cosmetics of this device. I'll put up a link on the screen because looks wise it's the exact same as the previous model, which I've also reviewed and spent 10 minutes looking at the actual casing and the connections and stuff. So if you want to know all that information, please just click on the link. Everything including the remote is still the exact same, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's got it's not glow in the dark buttons, it's actually backlit buttons, which is very nice, easy to use, works great with my PlayStation, and actually even works great with my amplifier as well, so I can adjust the volume on the amp. Only real complaint is because there's so few buttons to do stuff like adjust the volume on the amp, you need to press quite a few buttons, whereas to use it on the PlayStation it's just simply forward, back, pause. It's a pretty easy setup and it links in very well with the rest of the system. When I turn off the projector, 80% of the time the amp turns off with it. I don't know why it doesn't do it all the time. Same with the PlayStation, turns on and off with it 80-90% of the time, but not all the time. As I said, looks wise it's the exact same. Still unfortunately has this joystick for lens shift. Would have been nice for them to motorize it, but I guess that would have added quite a bit onto the costs. Just on the side here you have the control panel, which is basically almost the same layout as the actual remote control. Because the lens shift lets you move the lens around, the great thing is this is about 3 feet to the left of where the projector screen is, so it's not in center, and it's pretty much on the ground. But because of the lens shift, I'm able to move the image so it's almost as if the projector is dead on. Because of the weight of this thing, like the last one, it weighs close to 20 kilos. Not comfortable putting it on my ceiling because I'm pretty sure it would fall down. And also the actual ceiling bracket for it, the ETPKA 110S is the ceiling bracket for it. There's only one place that I found selling it on Amazon and they're charging $450 for the official Panasonic ceiling bracket. I know you can get cheaper ones and I think you'd be a fool not to with that kind of price tag. Just a few other things before we really get into this. The bulb is now 2,400 lumens as opposed to 2,000. Has a 220 watt red rich lamp, which I'll talk about later on and tell you if you actually notice any difference. Lens shift is still there. The 3D is actually built into the device now, so you don't need to buy that separate 3D transmitter. It's built into the device and it's 20 feet is the range that it gives you on it. It also has trigger out on the back. Now a lot of people probably won't be able to use this unless you're pretty well minted, because the trigger out, what it basically does is it lets you synchronize it with other devices such as electronic screens, room lighting, powered curtains, and it lets you have all these devices integrated together, so at the press of a button you can have the lights in your room dim and the projector turns on automatically and adjusts to the screen. But that's probably stuff that it's going to be financially beyond the reach of a lot of us. I certainly can't go into too much detail about that for you. Okay, the only other things before we actually get into it to mention: lamp life, 5,000 hours on eco mode. It's 5,000 hours on eco mode on 4,000 hours on full power mode, which is more than previous by quite a bit. It's almost double, not quite, but almost double. And the one thing that I'd really like to point out is the difference between eco mode and full power mode on this thing are minimal. I mean, you really aren't going to notice that much of a difference between eco mode and full power mode, so much so that I've always, on every projector I've ever had, gone in with full power mode. With this, I haven't bothered. I'm sticking with eco mode because you really would have to squint to tell the difference, which is good because you get 5,000 hours out of a bulb, and at the moment this projector is really new. At the moment it's going to cost about £360 to get an official Panasonic one. You can get third-party ones off eBay. From my personal experience, third-party bulbs are never as bright and never last as long as the official ones. That's just from my personal experience. Okay, so I'm going to pop in a Blu-ray, we'll take a look at some games on this thing, and we'll see how it goes. Final thing to say really is, on the back, connections are still all the same. You've got the 3 HDMIs, the component, S-video, and RGB. The bulb, this part still lifts up, and you can change the bulb from under there. 3 lights at the top. You got standby, temperature if the temperature's gotten too high, and lamp. But yeah, enough of this. Let's set this up, get it going, and I'll show you what it is. First step, we'll just turn it on. A lot of people ask me how long it takes for it to boot up on my previous projector review. So let's turn this around and let's just see how long it takes before we get an image. There we go, it's not quite powered on the lamp. The image still looks very dim. Please keep in mind, this is a very well lit room. There's 3 lights on the ceiling. So at the moment, I would say for the lamp to fully warm up and to get a proper image, you're talking probably around the minute mark. So I'm just going to grab some Blu-rays and games and we'll dive into this thing. Okay, firstly, I just wanted to show you what this is like in daytime. I will go and review it, obviously, with the lights off, but as I said, 3 lights on. I'll show you what it's like with the actual curtains open a bit later on. But as you can see, the last one I had, I don't know if you noticed in the review, I had my TV on the side. Now the TV's gone, because for me this is actually more than adequate. I do actually think it's a good replacement for my TV. Only downside is it's always on the back of your mind that you can't just leave it off and go to the kitchen or go take a shower and come back or whatever, because it's always in the back of your mind just how expensive the bulb is on this thing. £360 isn't really that cheap. Just before we go into its performance, see how film is, I'm just going to grab the remote, show you the menu system. Menu system, again, please watch the review of my last one if you want to know about the menus, because they're very, very similar. Picture mode, you've got game mode, switches on and off for a second between game mode and normal mode. You've got normal mode, dynamic, which makes it look way too saturated. You've got Rec 709, which from everything I've read, this is the closest thing to getting the perfect cinema experience is put it on this mode. However, this takes it down from 2,400 lumens down to just under 900, if my memory serves me correctly. So you're almost halving the brightness of this mode. So this mode would be useless if you're watching it with the lights on during the day. This mode is exclusively for with the lights off. But for me personally, I think the colours are just a tiny bit too washed out and dark with it. You got D Cinema mode, Cinema 1, Cinema 2, which is my personal preference, and then it goes back to game mode.